some politicians claim that Social Security is broke and won't be around in the future. Are they right? Is Social Security unsustainable? Dr. Robert Binstock has a unique perspective on this issue. Dr. Binstock's a former director of the White House Task Force on Older Americans and is currently a professor of aging, health, and society at Case Western Reserve University. Thanks for joining us, Doctor.
My pleasure, Arm.
Well, my pleasure. And I should also mention that you're involved in the Aging Resource Center at Menora Park. I want to go back to your first title, though, with the White House. That's impressive. Tell us about that.
Well, it was actually a time that was very sympathetic to benefits for older persons. It was under President Johnson. Mm-hmm. That's Lyndon Johnson, not Andrew. And times have changed a lot since then.
They sure have. And let's talk about that. Social Security, is it in danger today?
Well, in two respects, short term and longer term. The short term is that if the debt ceiling of the United States is not raised by Congress until before August 2nd, the Secretary of the Treasury has said that he may not be able to pay Social Security benefits.
Wow.
So it's very important from that perspective in the short term that the ceiling gets raised. The other problem is a bit more complicated. And that is in the year 2025, in order to pay Social Security benefits, we'll need to draw on what's called the trust fund reserves. Mm-hmm. Now, the trust fund is from excesses in payroll taxes that have not been needed to pay benefits in the past years and currently, but will be needed in 2025, just 14 years from now. And the problem there is that that trust fund consists of IOUs, U.S. bonds. It's $2.5 trillion now, which sounds like a lot, mm-hmm. and by 2025 it ought to be about $4 trillion. However, those bonds need to be converted into cash to pay benefits.
And how do we do that? Do we have to raise taxes to do that?
Well, there are several ways we can do it, but primarily raising taxes is one way I would recommend. One thing we could do is simply lift the ceiling on the annual payroll tax that is paid from our paychecks from $106,800 to no ceiling at all.
So right now we only pay Social Security tax on earnings up to $106,000.
Right.
If we raise that, will that make Social Security solvent?
It will, and that's something we actually have done with the Medicare part of the Social Security system since 1993. So it's not that big a deal, and it didn't cause it a stir then. The other two, well, another possibility is that we could gradually raise the payroll tax to make up the difference, but turning those bonds into cash could also mean that we'd have to go out and borrow trillions of dollars to do that, and we'd have to do it at an interest rate that's much higher than the government pays to itself on those bonds.
So that doesn't sound like it would be particularly the best way to do it.
It could be a financial disaster.
So let me ask you the big question. Is it worth trying to save Social Security? Is it worth either raising taxes or raising the cap or delaying the retirement age or some of the other things that have been talked about?
Well, it would be a disaster if we didn't rescue Social Security or keep it solvent. And that's because, first of all, we already have about 4 million older people who are below the poverty line, even with their Social Security today.
Wow.
Among married couples, retired couples, about half of them have over 50% of their income coming from Social Security. So if you take that away, they're going to be in disastrous shape.
Well, Dr. Binstock, I wish we had more time because this is an important subject.
Right.
It's such a treasure to have you here in the Cleveland area. Thank you for coming on. Hopefully we'll get you on again.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
You bet.
So as Dr. Binstock pointed out, Social Security is not just an issue affecting older people. We all have a stake in securing the future of Social Security. It can be saved, and it must be saved. My thanks to Dr. Binstock for joining us today.
To find out more about the Aging Resource Center, call Menora Park at 216-839-6678 or visit their website, www.menorapark.org. Next, what brought a smile to her face?